We're going to take a peek at the animals from the Wetlands DLC and the 1.2 update, right? This is 1.2, Deinocheirus. We'll just go in alphabetical order, starting with the Austroraptor, batch size of 1 to 3, 200 appeal. It's like Spinoraptor, which I found interesting. I have looked at the collab preferences already for these animals. So yeah, apparently you can do a Spinoraptor plus Austro exhibit, which is very interesting. Nothing that stands out amongst the dislikes here for me. 5370 lifespan, is that low? That might be low. Of course, it's a wetland animal, 51%, obviously. And a fish feeder. There was some, personally, at least I was questioning whether or not this would just be a kind of duplication of the Pyroraptor, but paleo accurate. Or comparatively paleo accurate, at least. But no, it is properly a piscivore, which is great. Juvenile, of course, we can't look at directly in the hatchery, which is a little awkward. But yeah, we can go back and look at the skins. So we'll just go through these, I guess, one at a time. Some nice shades of red on the female. Very dark brown. Nice black one there, too. And you get some colorful ones at the end, like you typically do. Patterns. We got another dark brown. I really like the spotting here on the flank. That's really nice. A lot of different like color patterns in here. This is pretty neat. And the tail from the top view here, with these like 3 rings of like feature feathers or whatever. There's probably a name for that, but I can't think of what it would be. With these like concentric circles is very cool. Something that didn't really, come across in like the trailers or anything. You do a little bit of a bumblebee thing. And a blue and a red. This is a good spread of colors. Like this looks pretty decent in terms of like what you can do with this. And then for the male, so let's do it the side by side. Female, male. We get a little bit of a head crest and a neck tuft, a little like turkey beard, of course. That's a very dark black to start with there, which is not the first skin, but the last skin on the top row. So yeah, kind of the same spread of colors, some reds, some greens, some dark browns and blacks. And then some funkier colors with this pink and blue. Then yeah, black, orange, green. Like the previews are really good for like what color it actually is. This was in the patch notes that the color swatches were improved in some cases to actually like accurately represent the available colors. And I will say for this animal, like I haven't gone through and looked at the other ones, but I will say for this animal, this is like quite good. This is a very accurate preview. That's kind of a fun look. Like the different shades of pinks and purples. The little beard there being green is weird. Funky. Yeah, it does a little less on the female doing the green and pink because there's not as much embellishment here on the head colorization. I guess it's the head is kind of the same. It's the stripes along the neck that really get funky on the male in a good way. Yeah. And then this guy comes with negative tolerance plus offense and fitness. Nothing too spicy there. Yeah, no, it looks like a good animal. Next. What are next? Deinocheirus. Batch size is 2 to 4, 864 appeal. I don't know off the top of my head how that compares to JWE2. I could have probably found that information, but I didn't. Sauropod Hadrosaur likes disliking larger carnivores in theory. Large appetite, short-lived, and antisocial negative traits. A whole pile of negatives, but 15 modifications kind of negates the negatives. Both for this guy and just like in general in this game. You have a lot more flexibility with your gene mods. Yeah. Juvenile silhouette. Oh, that's very bugged. Okay, that's... Must be the fluff? We're seeing the underlying animal silhouette and then the fluff that surrounds it? That's... Huh. Okay. And yeah, adult pop 2 plus, 1 plus male. So these are... They always want a male. So you can do a bachelor pack or a regular pack with a male. It's kind of an alpha. Alright, skin colors. I assume these are just directly ported from 2. But we might as well take a look. I don't know, are they? Because, like, these aren't very green. I feel like you could get... that is pretty green. The lighting in the hatchery probably throws me off, too. Because you could, of course, make a very mossy-looking Deinocheirus in JWE2. The pattern's definitely the same with, like, that stripe, right? Although, was the thigh stripe there in 2? I don't remember. The way the feathering goes into the tail is a little awkward. Probably was like that in 2 as well. Feathering can sometimes be a little strange. We won't spend as much time looking through this guy's skins. We already, seen the duck. Although it is worth, looking at the male here. So, male sexual dimorphism. I don't see any shift in, like, the mass or shape of the animal. Or even, like, the feathers on the tail. It's mostly just the pattern, or is only just the pattern. It's like a double stripe on the thigh instead of a single stripe and, like, an extra stripe up here. Along the neck and back of the spine. Underwhelming. I mean, I need to do a dimorphism video at some point. Because I think the male models and the... Well, let's just say the dimorphic models in general, because in some cases the problem is the female. And then the juveniles are incredibly inconsistent species to species. Like, there are some really good male designs and some really good juveniles in this game. And then there is some, like, hot garbage. And it really feels like a little bit of a compressed development cycle. Like a lot of time spent on getting the game into a shippable state and not worrying so much about... Some of these colors are spicy. But yes, not getting the game into maybe an optimal state as much, right? Shippable versus, like, optimal. Yeah, so on the female, these colors... Okay, so you do get an extra splash along the neck. So you can actually get some pretty funky looks here. I do like that. I do like this, like, patch of color on the neck. We've had this on other feathered animals, calling back to birds a lot, but I do like it. And then just generally having feather highlights in between the stripes does help. Like, it's a little bit better than I was thinking it was going to be. Looking at it like this. A very red friend. Nice to have this guy back. Very nice that he is not, part of the DLC, that everybody gets access to it. Very cool. Alright, Irritator and Hypsilophodon. I'm a Hypsilophodon enjoyer. I think this is a great addition to the roster. Sauropod, Ceratopsid, Ankylosaur, Hadrosaur, Stegosaur likes, so this is a small herbivore you can slot into essentially any herbivore enclosure, as long as you don't have too many other small herbivores to compete with space, right? And then this counts as... I don't know. This doesn't tell you its actual cohab type. So this is presumably the same class as Dinosaurs, which I don't remember if Dinosaurs is just classed as an Ornithomimosaur in this game, which is patently wrong. Like, hideously wrong. You'd be more accurate to classify Hypsilophodon and Dinosaurs as, like, hadrosaurids for this game, but they don't do that. Unless they change it at some point. 39% wetland. So they did actually make this have a wetland need. So this, of course, was a big point of contention in the community. Was this actually a wetland animal? Because you don't typically associate it with wetlands. And there's, a little bit of back and forth on that from people saying, like, yeah, but, like, a lot of fossils come from wetlands. So, like, sure. It was from an arid environment that had floodplains, so, you know, arid plus wetland, which they don't reflect here. But at the end of the day, like, if it's got a wetland eaten game, I mean, it is a wetland animal, right? Juvenile silhouette. Yep, there it is. Of course, another point of contention was the so-called frontier splotches. People were griping on, you know, it just being kind of another animal with splotches, which is underwhelming, of course. I think looking at this in game, I think this is a great look for this guy, actually. I was kind of on the frontier splotch bandwagon in preview stuff, but like, I really like just this one right now that I'm looking at. Because this isn't so much splotches as it is like just three stripes that are just a little bit broken up, right? This isn't splotches in like the way the you know, the like Dominion iguanodon looks gross, or like the female Herrerasaurus looks gross. This is relatively constrained. I have no real complaints with this, honestly. Let's check out the actual look. This might be one, I did skim through some of the skins. So this might be one I actually kind of picked, technically. So, dimorphism first. Let's do it that way. That's a male. That's a female. Non-dimorphic beyond, like, patterning stuff. Yeah, I suppose that's the thing, right? The splotches are much more of a female thing. Yeah, okay. Okay. That explains a little bit where I was coming from. Not like, yeah, this is not nearly as good as the male. This look, this is great. This, not so much. This is not like the worst. Like, you know, people have made the comment that this guy wears the splotches better than a lot of other animals do, and I do agree with that. But yeah, I like this substantially less than the male. We've got worse, you know, female designs in the game, but not winning my heart, per se. All right, let's go through, let's get a good angle here and go through the colors. We got some reds, some yellows, a nice gray. Bunch of, like, earth tones. Like, very earth toned. I mean, this is a nice, like, green and red and blue down here, kind of, but, like, still, I mean, it would make conceptual sense for, like, a small animal like this to be pretty earth toned. That one's pretty good. But, just from, like, a park, you know, spiciness standpoint, a little more color might have made these guys stand out a little bit more. I don't know. I mean, I still like this animal overall quite a bit. But I have a fondness for the smaller animals because they just feel underrepresented in the game roster, generally speaking. I know a lot of people complain because, oh, you can't see them in the grass and they're all the same. But, I mean, to me, these things are important for the roster. Also, novel species, another thing I really like. Very cool. Yeah, let's look through the male more. The male, definitely the better of the two. That's a good angle, I think. So, browns, some, like, earthy yellows and grays, same as the female, of course. Then, yeah, the more exotic colors down here. With the pattern, we get the blue and the white, yellow and blue with kind of a darker eye socket, which is interesting. So this is like maybe 3 colors on this pattern, or maybe that's just the same as the back stripe. And it's just because it's going from light to dark, it makes it look very dramatic on the eye socket. Orange and pink, purple on the shoulder there. White and red, kinda. Ooh, a very nice, like, crimson-y red splash on the shoulder with a, like, greenish blue, aquamarine, whatever in the back, and then, like, pink and kind of neon baby puke green. I like this splash of red. I think that's nice. Yeah, you put a nice dark color on that. That's pretty good. I like it more than the Austroraptor. I'm gonna be real. I like all the animals in this pack. Like, this pack has no duds for me, to be clear. All right, Irritator. We are looking at 1 to 2 batch size, 485 appeal, 12 modifications. This guy likes Barry and Suko. You can put this guy in with the other 2 Spinosaurs and have a super Spinosaur enclosure, which is pretty cool, but also surprising from like a game balance economic standpoint, because I feel like the Barry Suko enclosure is already a pretty strong enclosure design to make, and this is just more. Barren cover, wetland, deep water, only 30% deep wetland, but you know, deep water matching the wetland vibe gives us a very strong, you know, wet requirement overall. 2+ adult population with a cap of 2 males. So a what would you call that? Like I don't know, toxic masculinity. it doesn't like being around the boys. It's a ladies' man. Scavengers, of course, and then yeah, this is probably the same as like the Barry and Suko. Thirsty, large appetite, fit. Yeah, that's about the same. Pretty flat trait chances, so a lot of possibility for modifications here on this guy, because you don't have to spend a bunch to get rid of stuff. Like, this is technically more modifications you can use to customize this guy than like the Deinocheirus, because of the lack of negatives. I like his big finger claws, and I like, of course, the webbed toes and the 4th toe being on the ground here. Very unique footprint. I got a discussion on the subreddit about where the if there is a trackway that shows this 4-toed thing, which I've heard about, but nobody could find the actual like citation for that. So very curious about that one. The tail, of course, with the tadpole tail, something we haven't had in the game yet for that accurate Spinosaur look. A nicely slim and narrow skull profile. The front of the snout's a little square, which is kind of weird, but he's just kind of got this little bit of like a ridge thing going on here. And of course, these little like hornlets over the eyes, I don't think come from anything necessarily in the paleo record, but I'm not opposed to it. Looks good to me. Yeah, I like him. Is he my favorite Spinosaur in the game? I don't know. I think probably just because of the tail being represented here. I think that's fun to see, so I do like that. Oh, the Deinocheirus, by the way, dives to eat plants off the bottom of the deep water, which is awesome. I should have said that on the Deinocheirus. And there's a juvenile silhouette, of course. And let's look at some of the skins. So let's do the dimorphism first. So the female, so the little hornlets over the eyes are a male thing. So if you want a more reserved, I mean, there's still like a little bit of a peak there, but if you want a more paleo accurate reserved look of an Irritator, the female seems to give you that, since there's less of like a feature over the eye. Which is fun. I like having some dimorphism in the horns if it's not like completely crazy. The crest is a little smaller on the female too. The little midline crest. Body plan looks about the same. No changes to the tail, which makes sense. That'd be like locomotion related, right? All right, let's look at the female skins. So we've got a nice red base there with Sonoran, a yellow. That's a pretty good, like, gray gradient thing. Let's make this, like, blank, maybe, actually. Okay, so a lot of the facial detailing is actually part of the base. It's always... I should have looked at the blanks more on the other ones, because it is relevant. Some nice... Again, very earth-toned in here with all these ones. But a nice black and white on the Svalbard. A little bit of a killer whale vibe. Yeah, a good blue one there. Seems fine. Not, again, not really blowing my socks off with the color selection, but doesn't have to. I actually kind of like that they didn't just make this thing like crazy in terms of like the patterning. Putting the patterning like down the tail is more of an accent, I kind of like. It gives it more of a vibe. Like a distinctive vibe, I mean. Like this is like having a pattern that's centric on the tail is pretty different than most of the animals in the game. And I appreciate that. I'm a big proponent of giving these animals something that makes them stand out. Behaviorally and aesthetically. I.e., I don't like the frontier splotches. What about the black on like a nice light color? Yeah. That's a pretty good look. I mean, I like a lot of these different base colors. Like the baked in patterning on the head and neck does a lot of heavy lifting here too. Not being part of the pattern. All right, the male. So the male's got a little bit more, like the striping is much more broken up and extends further down the spine. And there's a patch of color on the neck and the crest. So let's start at the beginning. And then, yeah, much more splotchy on the face, too. Right? Yeah, there's, like, much more broken up. My first gut instinct, looking at the blank, I don't like the male as much. I don't like these, like, the Herrerasaurus, the little, like, colored splotches all over it really bothered me. On the female specifically. And this kind of has that going on again, where the face is like verging on looking a little diseased. It looks like it's got patches of like discolorization around the muzzle there. And like down the side of the arm and the leg. And yeah, like the same earth tones and stuff here. Then with the patterns. I did say I liked the patch of color on the throat there, like on the Austroraptor. I will say like getting multiple males with like this throat colorization starting to make me worried it's going to be a little bit overdone. Like a go-to thing for dimorphism is just the color of the throat, but it is like a very bird thing, right? To have like a colored throat, display feature. So I don't know how I feel about that overall. Like, I'm still positive on it currently, right? I'm not, like, worried about it yet. It's just one of those things where I'm starting to think, like, will they overdo this at some point? I don't know. Maybe not. Yeah, I mean, this is overall still a pretty good and interesting animal. I think if the muzzle here was a little less splotchy, I'd be pretty good with it. I think the more like frontier splotchy stripes I can live with on this. And the color selection for the neck and crest is really good. Like these purples and stuff. I just don't know about the patterning exactly for the tail and the spine. Does the spine have more... a little more pointy? No, I don't think so. Hard to say. I don't think it is more pointy. I think it's about the same. Yeah, I mean, I don't know. It's pretty good. Like, it's not bad. Again, none of these animals in this pack are bad. Like, I'm nitpicking a little bit when it comes to some of this. See, this isn't so bad here when, like, the color balance between the two tones on the face isn't as bad either. Like, that's actually a pretty good look for a male. Like, a very subdued, like, but still, like, still has display features with that neck and crest. And then just the colors blending on the tail patterning and the face patterning together pretty well is, like, pretty good. Honestly, this look, this Quillian pulchrana male might be, like, my canon look for it. I kind of like this. There's something that feels almost real about this, in a way. Yeah, well, anyway, pretty good. Cool. I'm very happy with the first DLC. personally. There's discussions about price point and stuff, but like, I'm not going to debate what the value of this DLC is. I mean, like, I think the vote with your wallet era of like DLCs was like 10 years ago, and we lost that fight. So it's just the DLC ecosystem we live in. And I want the animals, so I'm gonna buy them, I guess. I guess that's my stance on DLC. I fully understand if people are mad about the $2 price increase over like the GW2 DLCs, especially given 3 animals versus 4. Maybe if they would have launched the DLCs with 4 to get people used to the idea of the price increase, but without losing like content, maybe it would have went over better. I don't know. It's hard to tell too on the internet how mad people are about things, because you always have the angriest voices are always the loudest, right? But yeah, I think this is a pretty good DLC. I think this is up there with some of the better ones from 2, like that introduced the feathered species and stuff. I think I think Austroraptor is a little more underwhelming now because we've had like Utah-raptor and like, Guanlong and stuff. I think these like iconic early feathered species from JW2 will always remain kind of fan favorites because of the era they come from, of like going from, non-paleo accurate franchise designs to like some more paleo accurate stuff. Like, I think these will always remain community favorites because of that time. Which just puts like newer feathered species in like, a little bit of a deficit. I mean, I quite like the Guanlong. This is like one of my favorite feathered species, I think. But there's definitely like an uphill battle now for new feathered animals at this point, because like the novelty is kind of worn off a little bit. I still think Austro is a fantastic inclusion, especially as a piscivore. Like a proper, real, raptor species that's actually a piscivore, unlike the Pyro. Anyway, that's probably enough rambling from me. I think we can wrap this video up here.